So continuing with the Smart Life DNA Health and Wellness, the genetic test, we're going to see today the last part of the test. We've already been with this test for the last 2 weeks, just trying to remember a little bit of it. Genetics, it's the DNA, it's what makes you who you are. You inherit half from your mom, half from your dad, and then that genetic material is what determines not only the physical traits, but also the physiological functioning of your body. So your DNA determines how your body responds to food, exercise, stress, external environment, your behavior, how you respond to medications. In summary, it determines who you are and how you function. So the Smart Life DNA genetic testing has 4 main sections. I like to call it into 3. We've seen macronutrients in which we saw what were proteins, what were carbs, and fats. Then we discussed about the second topic, or the second week was about micronutrients or vitamins and supplements, where we discussed the importance of these, even though we needed in trace amounts, the importance of them in the body, how they function, and the disease and symptoms that can be caused if we don't have the proper intake of this. And then for today's session, we're going to talk, as you can see, it's in bold letters, exercise and activity. Before going into exercise and activity, I just want to make a quick reminder on how to do the collection of the swab, because at the labs, we've been having a little bit of a problem when it's just some minor issues. So I'm just going to make it clear for you. First, you acquire the collection kit, you complete the sample form, and then when you do the cheek swab, I'm going to show you. I'm just going to switch to my camera again, and I'm going to show you how to do it. Let's see. Okay, can you guys see me now? I'm just a bit concerned that you're not watching me. Let's just check. Okay. So what I want you to remember is that you have your kit. You open your kit, and then you're going to have you have some collection envelopes. That's just for the shipping. You have the stickers according to where you need to send the sample. And I just want you to focus on 2 small things: the small envelope and the swabs here, okay? So the small envelope, as you can see here, on the back part, it also has the shape of the 2 cotton swabs and how they should be placed inside the envelope. I'm gonna make it clear for you. So what we have to do, you can just have a glass next to you, and I'm going to after you've rinsed your mouth with water, you open the cotton swab like this, and there you're gonna have the lower end of the cotton swab. So you can grab it, and here you have the cotton swab. So you're gonna rub it in your inner cheek for about 30 seconds and trying to swipe it as much as you can, going 360 degrees in your inner cheek like this. After 30 seconds, what you're going to do is you're going to place the cotton swab into a glass. The idea is that the tip doesn't have to touch anything, okay? So you're going to leave it like this for about 2 to 3 minutes. Wait till it dry. You don't have to make anything to touch the surface. And then, as you can see here, you have the opening of the envelope, and you have here the form of the swabs. Okay, so you can see here's the cotton swab. So once it is once it has passed the 2 to 3 minutes and it's dried, you're going to place it inside the envelope this way, okay? I'm going to do it here slowly so you can look at the envelope. You're going to do it this way. Why this way? Because after we receive it at the lab, when we open the sample and we get the swab, we can grab it in our hands, and we're gonna have this end, and this hasn't touched anything yet, okay? We've had some people shipping it this way, so it might be a silly mistake, but then when people at the lab are taking it, they cannot, it gets contaminated, right? So then we get to repeat the test. So just try to remember for this. If you forget, look at the instructions manual. It's very clear. Even you have here some graphic at the envelope, so you can get to do the mistake. Then you just have to seal it and put it in the bigger envelope with your complete form, okay? So I'm just gonna put this aside, and we're going to continue with today's topic. Okay, so let's see. Now we're going to continue. As you can see here, this is an overview of the report. You can see how we've been talking. This is what we've been talking about in the last few weeks. The one-page genetic summary highlights. As you can see, it's differentiated by colors. So you can see the purple color was talking about your macronutrients. We discussed this, your proteins, your carbs, the fats, the saturated and unsaturated fats, which ones are better for you, etc., etc. Then after that, we discuss about your vitamins and supplements, or your micronutrients. And then at last, today we're going to talk about exercise and activity. So as you can see, the first page, has a very comprehensive summary and the highlights on each and every aspect of the report. But that doesn't mean that this is the entire report. The report goes for the next 20 pages, but this is the synthesized form. This is like the conclusions. I've always said in my seminars and my talks that we like to put the conclusions in the beginning because we think it's the most important thing. Sometimes when you're reading a book, when you get to the conclusions, you're either too tired or you don't have the time, so you skip them. And we believe that the conclusions are the main important thing in a report. So we've gathered these one-page genetic summary highlights for all of you to see and to read. And then, only then, if you have further inquiries or you have doubts and you want to read more about it, then you can continue reading the report. And the more you continue, the more extensive it is, the more scientific it gets. So we believe it's a smart approach because we go from the easiest to the toughest part of the report. So here is a closer look for the exercise and activity part. As you can see, we discuss about these variables that are power, endurance, resistance, blood pressure, and cholesterol. So basically, the first three elements talk about types of exercise. And here to your left, I've gathered some very specific, like in bullets, very specific observations about the difference of power, endurance, and resistance training for you to understand. But as the benefits of this part, along as the report itself, it needs to understand us better to know how to improve on our health. By following these advices on the exercise and activity part, we can, first of all, we can reach our goals faster. Why? Because we're not losing time in trial and error. We're going to do exactly the exercises that we're meant to do in the proportion that it's meant to be for our body. We're going to increase our performance levels. We're going to manage our blood pressure better because we can see if our genotype shows some predisposition for a specific exercise and how we can improve or how can we maintain our blood pressure in normal levels. And then we can also improve our cholesterol levels. Why? Because there are some studies that link a specific type of exercise with better performance of cholesterol. So all of this is on this part. I'm going to, well, the objectives of today's topic are very clear, very straightforward. First of all, understand the importance of an active lifestyle. And secondly, to learn differences among the exercise types. So after you've passed, as you can see on the first page, this is a one-page genetic summary. Then you continue going through the report and you're going to see your nutrigenetic report that it's going to look something like this. You're going to have look at the gray area above that I'm going to explain right now. So for each and every recommendation that we provide in this test and in each and every section, depending if we're talking about macronutrients or vitamins and minerals or exercise, they all have the same pattern because we're trying to make it easy to understand. So we follow the same pattern. So as you can see above, you're going to have the genotype headline. This explains the variable that it was studied in that specific research or that specific report. Then you see to your left, you're going to see different letters like CC, TC, or TT. These are the possible genotypes that can, like the possible combinations or permutations of this specific gene. That's the number that we have at the end of the right side. We have the gene number, and then in a white circle, we have the genotype that our DNA has, okay? So then if the variable that we're taking into consideration matches with the genotype of our DNA, then we provide some information for you, some recommendation. So this is how it works. The genotype of your body, the circle indicates your genotype, the white circle. Then you have the gene number if you want to look further on. And then at last, you can see what it says study reference number. So let me show you an example below. Let's see, for power potential, we have a recommendation. Your test results show that your power potential is high. Your genotypes are associated with enhanced muscular power, which is shared with elite power athletes. Okay, so this recommendation here was given because the studies that follow this recommendation provide extensive information that you have that recommendation, or that recommendation fits to your DNA. Okay, so let's see just one example. As you can see in the below the recommendation box, you see the variable or the genotype headline that it says slight enhancement of muscle growth. Okay, so then you have a gene description below. What was the research about? What were they doing? Then you have circle in white the genotype that was linked to this specific variable. Then you have the gene number, ACTN3RS1815739. And then this number 5, it means that if you want to know further more information about this study, in the last part of the report, we have the references. So the reference number 5 refers to this study that we are discussing here. So as you can see, for each recommendation that we provide, whether it's for food, whether it's for vitamins, supplements, or it's for exercise, in this case, power potential, each recommendation is endorsed by many studies or many researches that the scientific community has done, okay? Don't worry if you don't understand all of it. This is, as I always told everyone in my talks, we go from the very simple to very specific. So if you want to know more, if you want to dig more about it, go further down, then this is the path or the way for you to do it. You go from the simple way, then you start reading a little bit more, and then you get to know this description of the gene. If this information is not enough for you, you can continue going to the end part of the report and looking at the study references. So just quick information about the different types of exercise. Power is what it's now getting a lot of focus, a lot of attention. There's new trends on these strong exercises or CrossFit, that it's the ability to move weight with speed, okay? So basically power, it's related with explosiveness. It's a way of exercise where it is not about the weight, the amount of weight that we are lifting, but it's about the quick repetitions that we are doing, okay? So this is one type of exercise. The power training, it's similar to strength training, but the intensity and speed are increased here, and the time for resting is less. So basically, you're going one after the other with a lot of weight and very fast. We see here muscular or cardiovascular endurance, and this is the ability of a muscle or a group muscle to do a maximal force against a resistance for an extended period of time, okay? So the difference with the other type of exercise with power that we see here, the amount of weight may not be as much as in power. You can say it is constant, it's moderate, but then you do it in a longer period of time, okay? What you're practicing here is resistance. You're doing a training based on progressive repetition exercises. And then, so an example for, sorry, I forgot to mention you, but for power, then you have boxing, you have football, you have CrossFit. All of these are power exercises. Then if we're talking about muscular or endurance cardiovascular exercise, are the treadmill, cycling, doing rowing, doing abs, repetition with abs. All of these are cardiovascular because you're doing lower weights but higher repetitions, extended period of time, okay? And then for last is strength, as we know it, weights. The muscular strength is the ability of a muscle to exert maximal force against resistance. So we get a high amount of weight, and we do certain repetitions, but we do it slowly. We do repetitions, but we do it slower than in power. Power, it's a high weight with higher repetitions in a slow amount of time. In strength, what we're doing, we're stretching the muscle twitches, but in a slow way. We do moderate repetitions, but the amount of time between one and another, it's longer, okay? The strength training is based on progressive resistant exercises. Let's see here. Oh, you can see both me and the slide. Okay, it's perfect. Can you see the sorry, I only saw this right now, but it's good. It's good that you can see me explaining and you can see the slide as well. That's fine by me. Are you able to see my slide presentation? Okay, you can see me both. Okay, so let's go before going to the next one. Is there anything we should notice about the timing we use the DNA kit 1 hour after meals? Okay, the testing, sorry, I'm just gonna make a pause here on the exercise. The swab, it only requires for you if you drank, if you had a meal or you drink tea or coffee, just go and rinse your mouth with water. just to avoid that any small particle of food gets in the way of the test. Okay, it's not that the test is not it's going to get contaminated. Sometimes we just get the machine not to read the swab because of some particles of food. So that's why we also provide 2 swabs, because you do it twice, once on each side of the cheek, just to make sure that we don't have to request you to send another sample and delay the process. So we ask for 2, and if you follow our suggestions of rinsing your mouth with water and do the swab and put it in the envelope the way I told you to do it, that's enough. Okay. Why is the gene CC and down CT? Okay, so I'm going to go back. Some people are having questions about possible genotypes. Okay, these are the permutations or the differences among each and every one of us. So we can have a specific gene. We all have one gene number, but the permutation that we are going to have, the genotype, it's going to be different between me and my brother and my mother and the rest of the people. Okay, so even though we are testing for this gene number, suppose here on this example, the slight enhancement muscle of growth, the study here studied this gene number, and the relationship of this enhancement of muscle growth was proven in not all of the possible genotypes, but only on the CT genotype. That's why, imagine if I have a CC genotype and my brother has a CT genotype, as you can see here in the possible genotypes in the middle, then this variable or this recommendation is going to work for me and not for my brother. Don't stress too much if you don't understand it, because the study does that to you. You don't have to read this to understand it, because if it happens that study might going to be shown. If not, it's not going to be shown. So suppose if you don't have this genotype, the CT genotype, you're not going to have this recommendation, okay? So it is just to show you the validity of the studies, and this is how the scientific, how to say it, words or how the scientific understanding is. If we talk from a doctor to a doctor, from a genetist to a genetist, they are going to ask for this kind of stuff. They're going to ask, okay, so what gene were you testing for you to tell me that you have a higher risk of high blood pressure, for example? Okay, I'm going to respond. I studied the gene number, blah, 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 in the genotype CC or the genotype TT, okay? And it says that this patient matches with this input. So what we do is we bind the information. We match the DNA testing with this specific gene number and the genotype. I hope that I make that clear for the one who was asking this. Then seems like there's the first 2 entries in the power contradict one another. Yes, it did contradict me as well. I'm going to explain you again a little bit, because they are similar. They're all exercise. So we're going to talk about power and we're going to talk about strength. Okay, so let's continue to these slides. So power, it's about, look at the last paragraph, is doing a a training where the intensity and speed are increased. So you do a lot of repetitions and you have a lot of weight. So try to think about the images that I'm showing here. Look at the Olympic weightlifting. They don't do as much repetitions, but they do a lot of weights in very short time of period, very fast. It's very energetic. Look at the kettlebells. You go up and down, very, very fast. Or look at the other exercise of the balls. These are power exercises. Some people, or there are some studies that linked certain DNA responding better to these types of exercise. So if that's the case of my report, then on the hour that I go to the gym, I might as well focus a little bit more on this type of exercise where the intensity and the speed are increased, because I might get faster results. My body is going to get better results. I'm going to see better shape, more changes in my body than if I continue to do the other one. Okay? So this is not very different from strength exercise, because in the end, they're all exercises and they can overlap. A lot of exercises can be as well as power and strength, or some of them are going to be endurance and power, because they relate to each other. We cannot be black and white on this. I'm just trying to give you some main differences for you to understand and try to focus according to your test on these specific topics. In the endurance, it's doing maximal force against resistance for an extended period of time, okay? So you do moderate to high force to increase your resistance, but you do it in an extended period of time. In power, you do it in shortened period of time. You do it very fast, okay? In endurance, try to think about many sports are focused on endurance, and many cardiovascular machines on the gyms are also based on endurance. As you can see, the difficulty of these are not that much, or is not placed at the high level. You can say it's moderate, and then you can last longer on this. You can do progressive exercise on this. And then on strengths, you do the ability of your muscles to do maximal force against resistance. But here you don't do as power, that you do it in no time, very fast, but you do it in a slower way, in a controlled way, so you can stretch your fibers of actin and myosin that are the ones that cause hypertrophy. Hypertrophy are the ones that cause the muscle to growth. Okay, so if you want to growth muscle, you do strength exercises. If you want to gain power, like look at the boxers, the kickboxer for boxing. Sometimes you see some persons that may not be as big as the Rock, but they're very powerful. They have a lot of power in their punchings. That's because the type of exercises they do involves being very quick and agile at the same time that they move. So for hypertrophy, you do strength. For muscle growth, you do strength. And for power, for having that agility and velocity, you do power exercises that are going to increase on your response. Spinning is power training. Spinning, it's an overlapping of agent situated in endurance. Why? Because you can do it constantly. It's said to be moderate because you can force your muscle fibers to go to the limit. You can say, well, it depends, because it can go from moderate to very strong depending on how strong you put the spinning pedals. But then I would say that it's somewhere between endurance and power. Basketball is also endurance. It's not about power, because in basketball and a lot of sports involve active movement. Active movement also activate the cardiovascular system. You're doing some cardio exercising, you're moving, you're having a little bit of trouble breathing. These are called aerobic exercises. They're good also for maintaining the heart. It's a good heart exercise, or cardiovascular exercise is what all cardiologists suggest you to do. But it is not power, because you're not doing weights. You're not lifting weight combined with movement. It's only about you moving. Okay, let me just check. I'm going to check on Facebook before I finish. This is our goal. What I want you to understand is that look at this graph. I love it. I show it to all of my patients. What we do now, it's going to determine how we live our last 20 years. Do we want to live on a wheelchair, or do we want to live an active lifestyle? And this is like a life insurance. The activities, the choices that we made in the early stages of our life, the first 40 years, it's going to be represented in the next 40 years, our last 40 years, we can say. So the more exercise we do, the more we understand about ourselves. There's never, like there's a saying about there's always room for improvement. There's never a limit for learning. You can keep learning. It applies to your body as well. You never stop learning about how your body behaves. There's new technology coming every day. There's new evidence coming every day, every year. So it's your responsibility to engage and start feeling empowered on your health, doing the decisions. Don't wait for doctors or trainers to take the decisions or tell you what to do. You have to take your health on your hands, get informed, question, ask, and then, because the consequences, the one who is going to suffer them is going to be you. It's not going to be the trainer. It's not going to be the doctor or the physician or your neighbor, whoever gives you the advice. So seek for professional advice, but the most important part is for you to make that change in your lifestyle, your quality of life, to live the last years of your life in a proper way. Okay. A quick reminder that our report has it's a 20 pages report. The first is the summary report, then we go by the detailed nutrigenetic recommendations, and the last part is the references. Our goal is always to empower, as I mentioned, you or the clients to improve on your health and fitness. Also, to remind you that our company has privacy and takes privacy and security issues very seriously. Okay, so we don't sell your data, and we adhere to strict confidentiality and privacy laws as the U.S. government states. always be aware of this. You might notice that some other companies may sell cheaper tests, but you may see what they're doing with your data, if it's going to be kept secure and confidentially, or they're on the selling data business. Once again, it was nice, very nice to see you all. I hope I answered some of your questions. And if you have more, contact me on Facebook, and I will see you next week with the drug sensitivity test. Have a good night for all the ones who are in America, and good morning to the ones who are in Asia and Europe. Bye-bye.